We're lucky today to have some of the best experts in the world here for us, and one of those is Dr. Kim Bergman. She's a licensed psychologist and co-owner of Growing Generations, one of the largest agencies in the world for surrogacy. She specialised in this area and in LGBT parenting since the early 90s, so she's been in it for a long time. She assists really with this complex process. She writes, she teaches, she speaks on ethical family building internationally. She's co-authored Gay Men Who Become Fathers via Surrogacy, Transition to Parenthood, and she's got lots of research projects she's involved in as well. She's going to talk to us about the psychology of surrogacy, particularly from the surrogate's perspective. Please welcome Kim.
Thank you. Okay. Let's just see. Yep. I'm gonna just go here so I can see the slides. Okay. So that's me. And what I'm going to talk about is ethical surrogacy, and this is sort of part 2 of Karen's earlier presentation because she and I work very similarly. And what we mean by ethical surrogacy is a collaboration. So this is a partnership between a whole group of people. The ultimate it takes a village to help you become a parent, to create a family. So in that village, there are a number of professionals. There are many of whom you're going to hear from today, or at least every one of them represented today. Excuse me. And then there is a surrogate and her partner and her family and her support, and there is a donor and her family and her support, which you may or may not know personally, but they're all in there. So there's a whole village of people. And what I'm going to focus on today is the surrogate as one of the obvious integral parts of that village. I like to think of it sort of the intended parents and the surrogate and her family are kind of at the core of that village, and then all the rest of us professionals are sort of the kind of village holding that group together. All right, so the surrogate, and I think these slides are available later, so feel free to take pictures, but if I go too fast, I'm going to try to get us back on time. So there we go. Who are they? All right, surrogates are women who have had their own children, they've given birth, they've had easy, safe deliveries and pregnancies, they love being pregnant, they are usually complete with their families, or if not, then they may say, well, I'm pretty much happy with my family. I may, down the line, if I had another kid, fine, but if I don't, great, I'm good. They have a strong support network. They are physically and emotionally healthy, and that's screened, and I'll talk about that in a moment. They are financially secure, so they are not poor. They are not needing the money. They are certainly not doing this for the money. Anyone who's ever been pregnant knows it's absolutely not worth the money. Many easier ways to make this money. Plus, it's a very long commitment. It's a marathon, not a sprint. This is not a get-rich-quick kind of situation for a surrogate. They are good communicators because, as I said, this is a collaboration between a group of people, and communication is really key. They have no history of drug or alcohol abuse. They have no history of criminal background or arrests. They have no history of mental health issues. And ultimately, they want to help somebody to become a parent. Surrogates are not creating a baby. You're doing that. But they are creating a family, and that is what is in it for them. Okay, and this surrogate happens to may be a familiar face. I've been using this slide for years. I was just telling Mandy I should probably change this. This was from like your very first surrogacy. This is Carrie, a real-life surrogate who did give me permission years ago to use her in my presentation. But she's actually here, so you can talk to her at the breaks. In Carrie's own words, my family and I have chosen to be a surrogate for a few reasons. This is a priceless gift that I can share with someone who wants the greatest joy you can have in life, being a parent. I'll be teaching my children a valuable lesson in giving. Very common, well articulated, but this is really what surrogates are thinking. Here's another surrogate, Christina, who is a third-time surrogate. And this is her words. I first came to surrogacy because I felt a strong longing to assist other couples in their quest for creating a family. Having my own children came easily for me. I always held a place in my heart for those on a longer path. My past 2 surrogacy experiences brought such joy and love to my whole family. I find it very exciting to begin a 3rd journey. And she carried for the same couple twice with a different couple in between. So this again is the sentiment that surrogates express really across the board. Why do they do it? So I get a little bit of slack for my very first sentence, so I will take the moment to explain, as a psychologist, narcissism is very healthy. We all have it. We should have it. If we don't have it, we are depressed and in a corner in a closet somewhere. So that's my disclaimer. Surrogates are motivated by a healthy mix of altruism and narcissism. Healthy narcissism, normal, I am a strong, confident, great person is what I mean by that, okay? Very different from the disorder that is narcissism. Everybody has healthy narcissism. So that's what they're motivated by. I'm strong, I'm secure, I have a great family, I love being a mom, it's the best thing I've ever done. I want to give that to somebody else. And it requires a level of healthy narcissism because you do need to be strong and confident to be able to do this for someone else. They know that not everybody can give this gift. They are very unique. As Karen mentioned, we accept about 2 to 3% of the women who apply to our program. So it's a little harder to get into being a surrogate for CSP or Growing Generations than it is to get into Harvard or something. I don't know. It's true by the stats, but it's probably not true anecdotally. They're philanthropic by nature. So surrogates are often people who have been on bone marrow sites, and they give blood, and they're PTA president, they're the soccer mom, and they really are giving. It's not an overgeneralization because this really, surrogacy is just an extension of that. These are people who really truly, genuinely are giving in nature, and this they know is an ultimate gift that they alone could give. They are honored to help somebody know the joy of parenthood, and if you ask any surrogate what the sort of driving moment is, if they've been a surrogate before, what the piece is that sticks with them, it's that moment in the delivery room, seeing your face for the first time as you gaze upon your baby. They're not looking at the baby, they're looking in your eyes. That's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for a surrogate. They, as I say, they treasure that moment, and they often welcome a relationship with the intended parents. Is a real relationship. I'm going to get into that a little bit later this afternoon in a different presentation. There's no one way to have that relationship, but whether it's a relationship where you speak every day or where you speak once a month, it is still a relationship. All right. So ingredients of ethical family building that lead to the most positive outcome, and these are really important concepts. Informed consent. So the key here, I'm going to talk about in more detail. Informed consent is really at the core of this surrogacy relationship. Thorough screening and education, creating the experience as meaningful and respectful. This is not a commercial endeavor. This is not that. Openness, honesty, and transparency, and valuing every member of the surrogacy team. I'm going to talk about each one of these for a moment or two. So what is informed consent? So informed consent is actually a legal construct. It's also an ethical and psychological construct. It means that everybody participating has fully been informed of the risks, of the benefits, of the costs, of the time, of the pitfalls, and knowing all of that, no secrets, they are choosing to do it. So that means that full disclosure is important. So intended parent has had a history of cancer, and they don't want to tell this surrogate. Sorry, you have to. It's relevant. Surrogate needs to know who she's caring for. Surrogate had, was in foster care as a child. Yes, it's relevant. So we fully disclose when we educate each party, and then everything that's uncovered is fully disclosed to each other. This is a very open and transparent process. And also, informed consent means anybody can change their mind up to a certain point with no jeopardy. And that means a surrogate in the middle of a psych screening can say, you know what, I don't feel good about this, I don't want to do this anymore. So it's very important that informed consent is at the basis, and it protects intended parents as much as it protects the surrogate, because you don't want to have any surprises. The surprises we want you to have are you're pregnant, it's twins, it's a boy, it's a girl, those kind of surprises. Okay. Surrogates are thoroughly screened before they are matched. Now, not every agency does it this way. Karen went through the way that CSP does it. CSP and Growing Generations work very similarly, and many other agencies do. Some other agencies do as well. Every agency is different, and you want to sort of vet that when you're entering into this, because having the surrogate be fully screened is really, really important. Why is it important? Because, as Karen said, the screening process takes about 6 months. It could be 3 to 9 months if something comes up in the process. And you do not need to be along for that entire ride. You kind of need to get on board at the end when the surrogate's ready to go. So it's very, very important that surrogates are fully screened. And the screening needs to include a screening by a mental health professional. The way that we do it, we screen the surrogate, we screen her partner, her husband. We screen, if she's single and doesn't have a partner, we have her designate a significant other who will be her support throughout the process, and it's usually mom. We screen that person. There is an objective kind of testing that's done by a mental health professional, as well as extensive interviews. The surrogate undergoes a thorough educational process with the mental health professional, as well as admissions people in the agency. So again, lots of education. And just as Karen mentioned, we may start out with hundreds of surrogates in a month, and 2, 3, 4 will make it all the way through that process. It's to protect the surrogate as well as obviously the parents, everybody involved. And we're assessing not only the surrogate's mental health and mental health history, but also her motivation. Why is she doing it? What are her expectations for the future? How does she see herself vis-a-vis the child? Does the surrogate think that she's the mom? Does she think she's going to play a role in the child's life? Does she not care about any of that? All of that is assessed to make sure that everything is a good fit to go forward. Additionally, surrogates are fully screened medically. So they have a full blood panel. Doctors will be talking about that. A uterine ultrasound, general health, head to toe physical. Their financial status is assessed. So again, we want surrogates who are happy and comfortable in their lives, and for whom the money that they're going to make doing the surrogacy is an extra bonus. Most surrogates, when I ask them what they're going to do with the money, it's usually save for their kids' college, save, put away. So this is not feed my family. And that's really important. And these things are verified, by the way. Of course, first we ask and then we verify, because we want to make sure that the surrogate is going to be in a good situation that she's entering into. We look at her support network. Surrogacy is a roller coaster for everybody, not just for the intended parents. So we want to make sure the surrogate is really supported, that her partner, her parents, her community will support her in what she's doing and the choices that she's making. We do a formal criminal background check, and all of the relevant findings are shared with the parents. Now, just to remind you, I'm focusing on the surrogate. Many of these same screenings are done on the intended parents and also on the egg donor, but I'm not focusing on that in this talk. Okay, so it's imperative that parents and surrogates are well informed, well screened, educated about the journey, what they're getting themselves into, and that they clearly understand what this journey is going to look like. So we measure success. Obviously, we want you all to have babies, and for the most part, you will if you stick with the process. But we'd also like you to have a treasured experience. You are telling your child's story right now in your head as you sit out there, and whatever you've already done toward being a parent. We want that story to be beautiful, and it isn't always easy, of course, and it isn't straightforward, but we certainly want it to be a story you're proud of and something that you can share. All right, so the essential ingredients of the surrogacy relationship, and I'm going to focus on this more in the afternoon session: trust, communication, transparency, honesty, openness, mutual respect, and commitment. If it feels like I'm beating this into you, it's because I am. This is really, really important. This makes the difference between a journey going well and a journey really going sideways. Things will happen. There will be delays. There will be speed bumps. And if you have a good, trusting relationship with your surrogate, and she trusts you, she will stick with it. You will stick with it, and you'll have the right outcome. So trust is the foundation. Doesn't mean blind trust. Remember, you have a whole team of experts. Ask questions, talk, question what you don't like or what doesn't seem right to you. But trust is the foundation for surrogacy. You are trusting an ostensibly total stranger to carry your most precious cargo. She is trusting essentially total strangers to create the right family and be a family for the baby that she's carrying for 9 months. Trust is really important. I mentioned this already. So in the match meeting, we will go over everything that we already know about all parties so that everything is out in the open. It's very important that there's no secrets or surprises. And once the journey begins, that relationship starts to form. It's kind of a weird relationship, admittedly. It's sort of like a mix of a blind date, job interview, we're going to go have a baby. So you put your best foot forward, but you also want to be honest because you really don't want to get a job that is wrong for you because you've kind of made up who you really are. We don't want you making promises that you're not going to keep. It's really important as intended parents that you set up the right expectations with your relationship. Again, we'll discuss that later this afternoon. Communication is key. I think it goes without saying. This is, again, a real relationship. And mutual respect. Everybody's important in this journey, right? We need all these ingredients. Everybody plays an important role. All right. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon. I have probably said that about 1 million times in my career. It is going to, like any marathon, there will be miles that will be very boring and long and waiting and nothing's happening. There will be miles that are excruciating, and there will be miles that are exhilarating. A marathon is about sticking with it till the end. And that's what surrogacy is. People have mentioned the timeline. Yeah, it's about 18 months to 2 years from the beginning to having your baby, depending on how many speed bumps you run into. We ask that everybody stay committed for the long haul. Be willing to be inconvenienced, certainly not for the entire journey, but there will be a handful of times that it will be very inconvenient for everybody. And keep their eye on that end result. Again, the baby, the family, for the surrogate, seeing the look on your faces. So for people who want to be parents and need some help, surrogacy is a wonderful collaborative journey and path to parenthood. Working with a surrogate who's fully informed, committed, screened, educated, no surprises, respected, will help ensure that the experience is wonderful for everybody. And the result, happy families created through ethical family building with the help of a surrogate. And here are a few of those families. And if you come and see us at my table in a little while, that's my family. All of these families had some third-party assisted reproduction, which is what we're all doing here. We have a 16-year-old boy, Kevin, who's somewhere, probably not wanting to be in front right now. There he is in the back, and he'll be at our table all day, and he is a 16-year-old boy, child of 2 men through surrogacy and egg donation, super articulate, and he's my show and tell because I know, having done this for 20 years, that what's in your minds is, a whole lot of questions, not only about how will the surrogate be and will it work out, but will my kids be okay if I used an egg donor, if the kid has 2 dads, or if we're not genetically related. All of those questions, Kevin is up for them, and you can really talk to him about it. And I think that can be a very helpful way to look into your own future. Questions? Yes.
Oh, okay. With respect to the why do they do it, what do you think are some of the motivations or thinking for surrogates that choose an independent journey rather than going through an agency?
That's actually a really good question, and completely, I'll give you a little answer, and then I urge you to speak to some of the surrogates who are here, because I think they will really be able to shed some light on that for you. As a professional, I can say, so agencies are going to look after a surrogate better than, I mean this with lots of love and respect, but better than a surrogate can look after herself in a surrogacy, because she doesn't know what she doesn't know. Now, that's not necessarily true for a woman who's been a surrogate before and has been really successful and knows what she's doing. But there are many, many, many moving parts to this. And for both intended parents and surrogate, there's a lot there that you don't know. So I maybe I would say, if you're for a surrogate or intended parents who go independently, if you're the type of person who might go to a lumber yard, buy the lumber, buy the nails, make the plans, write it all up, buy the land, try to navigate the permits with the city and build your house from the ground up, you might be well suited to an independent surrogacy. Most people find that they wouldn't know that there are things that need to be done in a certain order and with certain steps. So for a surrogate, agencies take really good care of them. We make sure that the money is in at the beginning so they get paid. We know the insurance is in. We know the series of steps that need to occur. Now, having said that, there are successful independent surrogacies, but there's risk. And so it's a very personal choice for both a surrogate and an intended parent. I will caution, again, with the risk of please come and admonish me later so I do it better next time, surrogates. But, sometimes surrogates go independent because they didn't pass the screening at an agency. And that's a risk you run because you won't know that. And certainly not true all the time at all. But I know that there are surrogates who come to our agency, don't pass the screening, and request some of their screening materials, which we provide, because they're going independent, but we didn't pass them for some reason or another. So a little bit of a cautionary tale, but in terms of the, getting a little deeper in the motivation, please do talk to Mandy and Janelle and the whole slew of surrogates that I think are going to be here today, some of which were on my slideshow. Carrie's back there too. There's another hand back there. Yes.
When you review a surrogate's finances, do you get real intrusive, like credit check and looking at tax returns and things like that?
We do. We look at pay stubs. Yeah, we do. We get intrusive because, we really want to protect all parties, surrogate too, because, we need a surrogate to be financially stable so that she's not overriding her own judgment about what she would or wouldn't do because she needs the money. We don't want that. We want the surrogate to be freely choosing to be a surrogate without any encumbrance from financial need. So, yeah, we do. We do get into the weeds. Anything else? I think we're close to back on time for the break. I'll be at the table, and definitely, I know someone else said this earlier, use the breaks to talk to the professionals here. There's a lot of knowledge in this room. Okay.
Right. I forgot to ask him, is it true you got a kids book coming out? Have you got a book for kids coming out in surrogacy?
I do have a book coming out.
How long?
Hopefully by the end of the year.
Okay.